Chris, you are live on Truth Wanted. Are you there?
Yeah.
There we go. How's it
Can you
going,
hear me?
Chris? Yes, now we can hear you.
I'm good. I'm actually in Kansas, but I'm literally right on the border of Missouri.
Oh, okay. It's Missouri, Kansas, they can kind of look the same at some parts, right? I've been up there.
All
right. Well, Chris, what you want to talk to us about?
So I wanted to talk about essentially, my views. I spend a lot of time on YouTube, and my beliefs have changed over the last 4 years quite a bit. Essentially, going from like an alt-right Christian conservative to like a leftist atheist humanist. And like 4 years ago, and you can like look this up, like YouTube had a huge problem with like feeding lots of videos that had like based on like, rage media or conspiracy theories or just things that get people angry or like, question, like not necessarily like it's, there's these things out to get you or that kind of thing. And one of the things that I wonder is whether my beliefs just changed due to the supreme ruler of YouTube, the algorithm,
right?
Or that my views are actually changing for good reasons. Like, is it that I'm being conditioned? Like now that I'm kind of slowly moving to different content, then it's like, oh, you might like this too, and then it's just putting me back in a different position. In the same way, or maybe my mind's too easily changed, or maybe I do have good reasons. That's just something I've been thinking about.
Yeah,
I know a lot of creators.
I think about this too, because when I was first kind of I didn't even start looking up atheist stuff back in the day. Actually, I was probably looking up more like anti-feminist stuff back then. I was kind of in that a little bit because I was younger. I was a little angrier, and at the time, the atheist community and that kind of community was a little more in sync. Now, not so much, thankfully. But like that was kind of a trend for a while, was a lot of atheist channels talking about feminism and stuff. And I probably wouldn't have gone down the atheist rabbit hole as much as I did if that connection hadn't been made. And we see the same thing today with all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's already a million news articles about people who have fallen into like the alt-right, for example, and conspiracy holes because of the algorithm. So it definitely plays a factor. But I think also it's exposure to information and arguments has to come with a context. So like, I was a Christian because I grew up in Christianity. If I had encountered Christianity for the very first time as an adult, I probably wouldn't have believed it as hard as I did, considering who I am today. But it was because of that exposure that really got me there. And with YouTube being so ubiquitous as it is now, and young people like myself, like really growing up on it, I probably am the way I am because of my environment. And that's scary to say, because it's like, oh man, what does that say about me? What does that say about my autonomy? I don't know. But I can't deny that was a part of my past, and that's a part of who I am now. So yeah, we're probably all like controlled by the algorithm. I don't doubt that. What do you think, Jesus?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the only thing I could add is my favorite, or my mantra, I should be, is just scientific method. It won't fail you. It's really easy to just find yourself in an echo chamber that's no different than what maybe something that you had before. And how do you know that you're still on the right path? And that's the thing I love about the scientific method, is it's self-correcting. It's always questioning and never being satisfied with the whatever. It hasn't failed me, and so I'm sticking with it, and hopefully it's
a good media diet is important, right? And figuring out where your sources of news are coming from, being very conscious of that. We use that metaphor, but I think it really is perfect. I mean, we're eating food today as Americans that 100 years ago Americans weren't eating, and so their way of life was different, and the way that their body processed stuff was well, I mean, their bodies were still similar to us, but the food that they were intaking was different. And so the way that we consume media was different 100 years ago and what it is now. So we have to adapt and make sure that we're still consuming things in a healthy way. And social media is designed to keep us addicted. That's not even a conspiracy. That's just straight up out there. They tell you that the infinite scrolling feature on Twitter was the probably biggest mistake humanity has ever made. I mean, like it's done nothing but bad things for most people. Like it just makes people mad and they don't communicate with each other well. So yeah, like hopefully shows like Truth Wanted are good for your media balance. I don't know. I certainly have changed my mind on certain things since I started this show because of callers like yourself. So I appreciate that. And I try to involve myself in as many diverse communities as I can, even ones that I don't like as much. I tend to spy on those a bit more. You can do that on like Reddit and stuff. You can subscribe to those Reddits and never post and kind of lurk. I do that sometimes, but yeah, we're all, victims of Mark Zuckerberg and everybody else. So maybe we'll change that in the future. I don't know. But for now, we just have to work with what we got.
Amen.
Yeah, I've definitely, had that similar experience where the quote unquote skeptic community kind of got me out of religion. I remember like a Neil, Ken Ham versus Bill Nye the Science Guy. And I was like, that was like, wow, Ken Ham did great. And then watching it, then somehow like it sent me a related video that was like from some skeptic YouTuber. And I was like, I never really thought about that. And that's kind of what got me into it. But some things I didn't notice was like some people in that community would be like, oh, this is garbage. You don't need to read this. This is just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. And that I actually like, that's how like a lot of feminist videos were, like anti-feminist videos.
Yes.
And by eventually, I kind of just went and started reading some of that stuff that, on my own and kind of started really thinking about it more. But also, it's not just that, of course, then your media changes, the Alexa listens to you and the Google Home and changes your ad. I don't know. That's not, but all the stuff like around you changes with it.
We should go back to that old algorithm, to whatever made us atheists, and we should just stick with that one and just put that out for everybody. I think everybody would agree that's the best option for humanity, right? Ubiquitously, I think we can say. Anyway, no, I don't know what a good algorithm would be. I wish it would be like, hey, here's the problem too, because people who are like, I'm going to call them anti-skeptics because they say that they're skeptics, but they're really not. They're just kind of biased towards certain groups. Like they notice now that, now YouTube is cracking down on stuff like QAnon. Now Facebook is cracking down on Twitter's cracking down, and they see that as censorship. They see that as, now you're trying to hide something because you're changing, the way that these algorithms work. So there's always going to be a group of people that's going to say like, this is bad because it's not putting out my point of view more often. We're probably always going to see that. But I'm glad social media places are taking it more seriously. I'm glad they're doing something because it seems like if you have a Facebook group to like organize some sort of terror threat or something, like you should probably shut that down. That's probably not a good thing to have. And like, there's people that find that just from, I don't know what their friends are liking, but I don't know. We got some, I want to take at least one more call here before we wrap up the show. So Chris, thanks so much for calling. I'm glad you left us with that thought, and I wish you well tonight.